Hi, this is Michael Buffer, and welcome to the BoxHard Podcast.
Hello, everyone. This is Mikey Garcia.
It's the monster from the swamps, Regis Rougarou Prograis.
Hey, what's up? This is King Carlos Molina, former IBF world champ.
This is Michael, the Bounty Hunter, 2012 Olympian and your people's champ.
This is Charlie Edwards, flyweight champion of the world.
This is Fast Eddie Chambers, and you're listening to the BoxHard Podcast with my main man, Joey Coastman.
Hello everybody and welcome to episode 382 of the BoxHard Podcast. I'm your host Joey Coastman. I'm joined as ever by former heavyweight world title challenger. It is of course Mr. Eric Chambers. Eric, how you doing this week, my man?
I'm doing great. Joe, how you feeling?
For those that don't know, there's an inside joke. We'll get into that later. Of course, I didn't just do a massive mistake and randomly call Eddie Eric. But anyway, we'll get to that, of course, in due time. Let's dive straight into the review part of the show. We're going to start here with a card that took place last Thursday, which was February the 2nd. We've got, I think, 3 or 4 cards to go over in the review part of the show. This one took place in Canada at the Montreal Casino in Quebec. This one was on ESPN+. Over here, let's start with this one here, actually. I think it was the Chief Support, if I'm not mistaken. But anyway, a fighter that I used to be high on, Yves Ulysse Jr., now 22-3. Again, at one point he looked great in his career, really good boxer. Humiliated Cletus Seldin at a good time when I think Seldin might have been undefeated. And Ulysse was a really good fighter. Seemed like he had a real bright future. Lost to, again, I forgot the guy's name on last week's show. I forgot it again. A guy that Anthony Crolla beat. Really can't be bothered to go and look now. But anyway, lost to that guy, which was a bit kind of weird. And he come back in this fight here against Gabriel Valenzuela, who's now 26-3 with a draw. Valenzuela gets the TKO win in just one round there. That could be the end of Yves Ulysse Jr., certainly at that level. I mean, I just can't believe it. I thought he'd win the fight. I thought he'd win probably on points, but for him to get stopped there in just a round is incredible. I don't think he'd ever been stopped before. And yeah, a lot of people saying that's the end of his career. We probably won't see him again, certainly not at that level. It seems like he's done and dusted. It's a real shame the way, he never was able to build from that Cletus Seldin win. But anyway, that's it for that one. Moving on to, I believe it was the main event. Friend of the show, Alontes Fox, now 28-4 with a draw. He stepped in with the undefeated Eric Bazinian, who's now 29-0. It was for the NABA and NABF super middleweight titles. Yeah, it was a gut punch, really, because obviously Alontes is a good friend of mine. It was pretty much, as I said on last week's show, a last chance saloon, really, for him. Obviously, you look at his recent fights, he hasn't really beaten anyone of note, and He's only really lost to good fighters. He was coming off a stoppage loss to David Morrell. And I think he was handpicked really for Eric Bazinian on short notice as well. So Bazinian gets him in, expects to beat him nice and easily, and it's a good name for his record. If he gets a stoppage, that's a plus as well. But they got Fox in, and yeah, Fox, started the fight really well. I think the commentary team gave him the first 2 rounds. I think they might have even had it 4-1 or something like that after 5 rounds. But yeah, I think at one point after 6 rounds, the commentary team were quite fair, I felt. They had it 4-2 to Fox after 6 rounds, and then they gave Bazinian rounds 7, 8, 9 and 10 and gave him the fight in the end 6-4. And I pretty much agreed with almost everything they said, to be honest. I thought he lost the fight fair and square, about 6-4 in the end, and he just let it slip. I mean, as I always do with friends of mine, if they lose a fight, I always make sure to speak to them afterwards. I feel like it's more important to speak to a friend after a loss really than a win. And yeah, spoke to him, of course, and I just said, man, it's a shame. Like he said, he got real tired in the late rounds. and just wasn't able to continue, and win more rounds. Late on, he felt absolutely exhausted. All of a sudden, it come to him real quick. He was doing well at one point, and then, like I say, just burned it all out very quickly. And it was a really tiny ring as well. For a guy of Fox's height and his reach and stuff, he needs a bit of space to be able to work. And it was, like I say, a real small ring, and the referee was allowing them to just keep wrestling. He didn't really break them up much at all. And every time that Bazinian would get up close and fight on the inside, it was more his fight. Fox wasn't doing terrible, to be honest, when it was on the inside, but it was certainly more Bazinian's type of fight. And like I say, whenever he'd get close, he'd grab hold of Fox as well, and it would work in his favour because the referee would allow it to happen, and there was so much wrestling. The referee just wasn't breaking them up, and like I say, Fox needed space to actually get his shots off, and when he didn't have the space, he was doing next to nothing. And real shame for him, because I do think it is a little bit last chance saloon. You lose to a guy like this, where'd you go? Hopefully there's another opportunity. Hopefully it doesn't take too long for him to get it, because I think he's got good skills and everything. I think he can beat some top fighters, but hasn't had many opportunities, and I think this one was a golden opportunity for him to win. I don't think Bazinian's a fantastic fighter, but unfortunately he hasn't taken the opportunity, and I've got to be real about that. Great shame for him. Moving on though, don't want to dwell on that one too much. Moving on to this one, it took place on Friday at the Desert Diamond Arena in Glendale, Arizona. Brilliant fight on ESPN in the main event. I'm going to get to that last though. Let's touch on the undercard. A win for Emiliano Vargas, now 3-0. A unanimous decision for him over 4 against Francisco Duque, now 1-2. Nico Ali Walsh, now 8-0. A unanimous decision for him over 6 rounds against Eduardo Ayala, now 9-3 with a draw. Richard Torres Jr. now 5-0. Again, another good stoppage win for him. He took on James Bryant, who's now 6-3. It goes down as a first round retirement win for Richard Torres. Basically, he caught Bryant with the very last punch of the round, which was a massive right uppercut. And Bryant went down, got back up on shaky legs, went back to his corner, and didn't come out for round 2. I think he mentioned that he'd maybe hurt his ankle, and he got out the ring, limping and stuff like that. So I believe him. I think he maybe landed awkwardly or whatever, but yeah, another explosive performance really for Richard Torres Jr. I'm going to say I put quite a big bet on Torres Jr. to get him out within 2 rounds, and I was a bit nervous when I heard the 10-second clapper in round 1. I was like, man, this is, it was quite a big bet. I was like, man, this needs to get over and done with. So when I saw him land that shot, and then I saw Bryant get back up, I was like, damn, he's going to make it to round 2, but obviously he didn't actually come out for round 2. Elsewhere on the card, we're going to be speaking to him a little bit later on, but Andres Cortes, now 19-0, a 10-round unanimous decision for him against Luis Melendez, now 17-3. Cortes with a complete shutout there despite suffering a cut. What else did we have? Arnold Barboza Jr., now 28-0, a unanimous decision for him against Jose Pedraza, now 29-5 with a draw. It was for the WBO Intercontinental Super Lightweight title. Really close fight, I felt. I mean, I said it on last week's show. Pedraza maybe isn't what he once was, but still a more than capable fighter. Certainly capable of beating a lot of the top guys, giving everyone, it'll give everyone a hard night's work, I think. And he did it. I felt he won many rounds. I don't think he ever should have been a 7-1 underdog for a points win. And as for Barboza, I felt it was probably a really good learning fight for him. I feel like you can only learn from fighting someone like Pedraza. Really good name for Barboza's record, and I actually think he'll improve a hell of a lot after sharing the ring with Pedraza and having some questions asked of him. And yeah, Pedraza, I thought at times, won a bunch of rounds, and I loved his front foot pressure that he kept putting on despite what Barboza would throw at him. Like he'd land a good shot, but Pedraza would keep coming forward, putting that pressure on. He really made Barboza think, and I think it was the perfect fight for the progression of Barboza. But yeah, I think Barboza probably did enough in the end, maybe just to nick it, but it was a close one. And like I say, Pedraza to win on points. Should have never have been 7-1, never. Just about missed out on that one. And the main event, Emmanuel Navarrete, now 37-1. He was down in round 4, but he did overcome that. He got back up and, of course, got the TKO against the Australian Liam Wilson, who's now 11-2 in round 9 there. It was for the vacant WBO World Super-Featherweight title. Something we should mention is the weight shenanigans. You know, there was an issue at the weigh-in where basically Liam Wilson weighed in 3 pounds underneath the weight limit, Eddie. And I don't know if you saw this. If you did see it, then chime in. If you didn't, then no point unmuting. But basically what happened is, obviously before he actually he turned up at the weigh-in, Liam, I think I called him Liam Williams, but Liam Wilson obviously weighed in, I guess, in his hotel. He saw that he was on the weight, came to the weigh-in and got on the scales before the official time of the weigh-in. Got on the scales, he's bang on the weight, gets off them. You know, about 20 minutes later, he officially weighs in front of all the cameras, and all of a sudden he's 3 pounds under the weight, and Navarrete just about makes the weight. So he was saying that obviously the scales must have been tampered with. Navarrete would have been over the weight because there's no way I was 3 pounds under it. So a bit dodgy there. But yeah, I mean, yeah, that was a bit naughty, to be honest with you. But getting on to the fight itself, I mean, yeah, Liam Wilson, big, strong, sturdy guy, solid for the weight. I think he boxed really, really cleverly early on. He managed to score a knockdown, like I say, in that 4th round. It stunned me. It really did. I couldn't believe it. I think it was Navarrete who hurt Wilson, and then basically got a little bit reckless coming in, and the pair traded left hooks, I believe it was, and Wilson's one landed obviously right on the button with more power. Navarrete instantly was hurt. Wilson, of course, jumps on him, and to Navarrete's credit, he took about 5 big shots before he went down, and even when he was on the way down, he took another one. But when he went back down, he was in lots and lots of trouble. Climbed back up very unsteadily. There was only seconds left in the round, thank goodness for him, and he spat his gum shield out on the floor. You know, veteran tactic, let you know that his head was in the right place. Referee picks it straight up off the canvas and slams it back in his mouth. Doesn't let the corner, wash it off or anything. And yeah, thankfully for Navarrete, there wasn't many seconds left, and he got through the round. He didn't look overly great on his legs at the start of the next round, but after about a minute, I think his legs were back, and from that point onwards, he just had to bite down on his gum shield and grind Wilson down, and that's what he did. The knockdown in round 9 was a 1-2. It was early on, and down he went, Wilson. Like I say, got back up. Navarrete smelt blood. I think Wilson as well by that point had a busted nose. And yeah, Navarrete decided he wanted to get the job done in that round and just went on the attack. He battered Wilson really in that 9th round from pillar to post. And Wilson kept going backwards in straight lines, no head movement, no defense. And Navarrete showed that Mexican dog in him that he has. The referee obviously stopped it after too many big shots were landed on Wilson's chin. It was a great stoppage, I felt, by the referee as well, because I think the corner was a bit brave. But yeah, Wilson definitely better than most people gave him credit for, and I think I was guilty of that as well, underestimating him maybe. But yeah, to take on board what he's done there, it was his first scheduled 12-round fight. He was only 11-1 as a pro going in. And I don't think he was the most deserving fighter of getting a world title shot, but I think he did enough to enhance his reputation and show that he deserves to be right up there with, the other top guys in the rankings. So yeah, credit to him. I think he made a name for himself, had a big moment. It could have gone very differently maybe if there weren't just a few seconds left in that 4th round. Maybe Navarrete overlooked him, I don't know, but he had his moments, and for me, he performed really well actually, and very impressive. Hope he can get another big fight, hopefully stateside. Obviously afterwards we saw Oscar Valdez get in the ring at the end. Top Rank doing a fantastic job trying to keep that WBO Super-Featherweight world title in-house, and it looks like they're gonna continue to do that for the foreseeable. Eddie, you did unmute at one stage. I don't know if you had anything to say.
Yeah. I watched like bits and pieces of it. It was pretty exciting. The guy Liam Wilson did he gave a good account of himself. Landed a nice shot there. And what round was that? I think it was third or fourth round, or something like that. Yeah. And looked like he was, you know what I mean? Like, if it wasn't ended the round, could have had him in some serious trouble. He was in trouble anyway, but he, being if there was more time in the round that he could have taken advantage of it, he could have maybe pulled it out of the fire, and that would have been a huge upset. But credit to Navarrete, he weathered that storm, especially the following round. Came back and started to, reestablish control. He's a busy guy, always in your face, strong, aggressive. You know what I mean? And eventually wore down Liam Wilson and took the fight. But I agree with Joe. He really gave a good account of himself. For someone like we talked about it on last week's show, like he's not really that heralded, you know what I mean? Especially against a fighter like this here, Navarrete. So it was kind of like, most people expected him to, I don't want to say walk through him because they're elite fighters, but you kind of expect that, that guy would have kind of walked through him, and that was just not the case in this fight. So, his stock definitely has risen, and hopefully get better shots down the road.
Yeah, for sure. And moving on now to Saturday at the Loom Color Phoenix Center in Ontario, California. Over here, friend of the show, Ernesto Mercado. He's now 9-0. A knockout for him, another knockout for him, 9-0, 9 KOs. This time he went into round 7, which is the furthest he's gone. I think last time he went into round 6, if I'm not mistaken, which was the furthest he'd gone. And now he's gone into round 7 against Jose Angulo, now 14-5, but nonetheless another stoppage win for Mercado. Didn't see the fight, but it was for the NABA USA Super Lightweight title. And moving to the Madison Square Garden Theatre now, in New York, of course. It was live on DAZN. Wow. This was quite a decent card, actually. I'm going to really whiz through it, though, as quick as I can. Britain's very own Ramla Ali with a win, 8-0 now, a unanimous decision for her over 10 rounds against Avril Maffei. It was quite a close fight, actually, I felt. I think the scorecards didn't really tell that, but yeah, Maffei came and gave it a right good go. Ramla Ali, obviously, though, the much classier boxer. That one was for the vacant IBF Intercontinental Super Bantamweight title. 8-0 Ramla Ali. Another female to certainly keep an eye on, Shadazia Green, now 12-0, I think with 11 KOs. She knocked out Elin Cederroos, who had never been stopped. She was only 8-1, but the one loss wasn't a stoppage, and I think the one loss came to, if I'm not mistaken, oh god, I forgot her name, but she is I think undisputed world champion. I think a former opponent of Clarissa Shields, if I'm not mistaken. But anyways, she was knocked out here in round 6. Cederroos down as well in round 3. It was for the WBC Silver Super Middleweight title. So again, perhaps we should keep an eye out there for Shadazia Green. Elsewhere on the card, friend of the show, Sky Nicholson of Australia, now 6-0, a unanimous decision for her over 10 2-minute rounds against Tanya Alvarez, who loses her. She's now 7-1. Nicholson pretty much won every round, to be honest with you, but still hasn't picked up her first stoppage. 6-0, all gone to points. It was for the vacant WBC Super-Featherweight title. She looked quite good, Nicholson, I think, but easy win for her. Richardson Hitchens as well, very impressive performance from him, now 16-0, a unanimous decision there over 10 rounds against the undefeated John Bowser, who now loses his 17-1 is he. This one was for the vacant WBC United States and the IBF North American Super Lightweight titles. Richardson Hitchens won every round, to be honest, and I think the corner should have thrown the towel in, certainly in the later rounds. I mean, John Bowser, it got to the point after about 7 rounds where he had no chance at all. He was getting battered. I'd hate to see what his face looks like this week. I think it would still look awful. He took an absolute hiding late on, and I think the referee should have and could have stopped it. I think the corner certainly should have thrown the towel in, but no, they let him stay in there for the entire 10, and he just got battered from pillar to post. Like I say, very, very easy win there for Hitchens, who, yeah, completely shut out Bowser. Bowser was down twice in the fight as well. There was no way he was going to win the fight. It was just one-sided. Elsewhere on the card, Alicia Baumgardner, she boxed Elam McCalled, who's now 15-2. Baumgardner now 14-1. McCalled down twice in round 3. A unanimous decision, though, over 10 2-minute rounds. McCalled did get up and last the distance. Really entertaining fight. I think Baumgardner was in, I don't want to say in trouble, but in a real fight, you know, a fight where I think she had to think a hell of a lot. McCalled had some moments in there as well, but yeah, when Baumgardner hurt McCalled a couple of times, she went right in for the kill. It was quite an exciting fight, but a good fight, a competitive fight, really. It was for all of the marbles, so Baumgardner is now undisputed at her weight, super featherweight. Good win for her. And the main event, Amanda Serrano now 44-2 with a draw. A unanimous decision over 10 2-minute rounds against Erica Cruz of Mexico, now 15-2, again for all the marbles. So Serrano is now undisputed if she wasn't already. I don't think she was. I think maybe she was missing one title, but she's now got the missing title. Yeah, obviously a rivalry always whenever we see in boxing a Puerto Rican fighter get in with a fighter from Mexico. But yeah, a bit one-sided, I'd say. You know, I think Serrano was always going to go in as a massive favourite in my mind. I didn't think that she would come up with any issues against Cruz, but people were saying that Cruz was fighting a really weird kind of fight. I guess that's people saying that who have seen her fight a couple of times before. I hadn't seen her box, I don't think, many times. Maybe I might have seen one full fight, but yeah, apparently she didn't really box herself. She suffered a huge cut from a head clash early on. But it was a fantastic fight. It really was. I should probably take back the one-sided comment, actually, because, yeah, she did have moments, and people were saying it was, maybe fight of the year. I think Eddie Hearn come out and said it was fight of the year, but no surprise, he was the promoter of the show. But yeah, definitely a really good fight. If you didn't see it, it's worth watching back. I think I am going to actually watch it back because yeah, I don't mind a really good fight, especially when it's the females. It's a fast-paced, 10 2-minute rounds, 20-minute fight full of action. I like to go back and watch them, so I think I'm going to give that a rewatch. But yeah, I stayed up for it, and yeah, it did deliver. I don't think, in terms of skill level, it was up there with Taylor Serrano from last year, but it was definitely, it's on the short list anyway. It's going to be on the short list for Female Fight of the Year, and Serrano was involved in it again. She loves to bring an entertaining fight. And finally, the final card of the review part of the show took place in Nashville, Tennessee at the Texas Troubadour Theater. It was on Fight TV. It was a mixture of country and western music and boxing, which of course was an interesting cocktail to consume. But let's get on to the main event, the only fight that mattered. We saw Eric Chambers return to the ring after 7 years out. Eric, tell me about the fight, man. How did it feel to be back in there under the bright lights after almost 7 years of inactivity?
No problem, James. I mean, Joey. No, but it was interesting. It was really interesting. My opponent gave the best he could in a short notice situation. It's nice to be able to get back in there, shake the cobwebs off without too many risks going on, without too much risk. Going on into the fight. But at the same time, I wanted to really feel out what the situation would be, how my shots would feel, how my defense and all of that would feel under the lights in a pressure situation when there's a crowd there. So luckily for me, it worked out pretty well. I felt as sharp as I could be at this point, and defensively sound, and make sure I kept my head moving really comfortably. And like I said, the opponent, he gave what he could, but he wasn't, 100% prepared for a fight as he should have been. But like I said, he gave the best account of himself in the situation that he was dealt. We're on two different levels in boxing, and you can't expect a guy like that to be able to compete necessarily with my level. But fair play to him. He gave me the opportunity to get back in there after a long time off, and it kind of shook out some of the cobwebs. But I think I need to stay busy. I think I need to have more fights, more than just one. Obviously, I got to have a few more lower level fights, and then maybe if possible, I can get somebody who has a name and maybe put them in that rotation, which is what I'm going to need to get to my goal of possibly. Basically, I just want to see where I'm at. But if I get to that level, then it's like title or bust. You know what I mean? I'm not. If I'm able and I feel physically capable and my mind and all of that is working together, and I have an opportunity, I get an opportunity. Yeah, then it's like the only thing I can be really chasing is a title, and obviously with a title is going to bring wealth, or I don't want to say wealth because it'll bring some money. Let's just say that. And for somebody at my stage in my career, I'm not going to try to be in there forever. So, it'll be a nice end to my career if I'm able to get an opportunity for a title or something like that down the line.
Yeah, so you're 43-5 now. Obviously, for the listeners that didn't understand the inside joke, the ring announcer initially, when calling Eddie to the ring, called him Eric Chambers, which was laugh out loud hilarious for me watching at home on my iPad. But yeah, it was as well quite interesting that you both entered the ring from the same side, one after the other, which was kind of cool. But
right.
Yeah, obviously, as you say, it wasn't really about the opponent. It was just getting back in there, getting back into the swing of things, back into the comfort zone. There was a moment where you showed us a little flash of perhaps, I don't know if I want to say a flashback or maybe a flash of what's to come. I like the little left hook up and down that you landed, which obviously staggered your opponent. The referee gave him a standing count, and obviously you went back in after that, and I think the straight right hand was what ended proceedings. But yeah, it was just, it was what it was. It was just, as we said, just a fight to brush the cobwebs off to come back to. And is there anything, I know that obviously we don't want to jinx anything, but is there anything in the pipeline, any idea of when we might see you back out, maybe with a slight step up, Eddie?
Yeah, actually, we're planning to stay busy, keep the hands moving, keep the feet moving, in a positive direction. So possibly the following month, this month coming, which will be March, and I think the date possibly is March 7th. Like I said, maybe a slightly tougher opponent. We'll see. We'll see how things play out. Like I said, the idea is to stay busy, stay active. So so I'm prepared for what comes down the pike, and if it's a good opportunity, if there is a good opportunity waiting there for me, I'll be ready for it. And it's just at this stage of my career, things need to be, meaningful. You know what I mean? It's got to point in the direction, that's going to be positive for me. There's no games or anything like that at this stage. The idea is to, if I feel great, if I decide that, and just from third-party perception as well, that I can actually perform at a high level. You know what I mean? Still. And we'll go at it, with both feet. But if we prove, if things prove to be overly difficult and my body's just not responding like I like, I'm not too proud. I understand what the situation is. I know Father Time is undefeated, and that means we just got to step back. But as it stands, I feel good, and kind of excited to see what the future holds.
Okay, well, there we go. He's back. He is back. There we go. That is the bombshell of the week. And that brings the review part of the show to a close. The final thing for me to do is to welcome this week's special guest. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the undefeated super-featherweight contender. It is, of course, Mr. Andres Cortes. Andres, welcome to the show, my man.
Thank you. Thank you for having me, Joey.
Hey, my pleasure, my man. So it's the first time we've had you on. So like I say, welcome once again. It's interesting because we see a lot of fathers training their sons in boxing. We don't always see fighters trained by their brother. Just tell me briefly what it's like to be trained by your brother, man. It's cool.
It's been a good journey. We kind of grew up like this way. Being with each other, by our side. So it feels normal to me. It might be different to other people. Just depending on how you and your brother grew up. We've always had boxing, and that's all we really did growing up. So like I said, this is all we know. So.
And you're currently 19-0. One fight I do just want to touch on briefly was your 15th pro fight. That first round knockout against Genesis Savania. I mean, this is a guy who went 12 rounds with Oscar Valdez, dropped Oscar Valdez in that fight, of course. No one's ever done that to him in just one round. Talk me through that fight. Like I say, I think that was the fight that really caught the fans' attention.
Yeah, it was. I knew it was an opportunity of my life, and I was at that point I wasn't signed to anybody, so he was on contract with Top Rank, so pretty much I was fighting a Top Rank fighter, I took full advantage of the opportunity, and I went out there and I did what I had to do. I got 100% ready, and I honestly feel me 100% ready. I'm unstoppable. So, and I'm gonna just continue. I'm gonna keep continuing to prove that.
Yeah, it was a great win. Like I say, I think Genesis, I think caught you with a good shot early on, and it just made you go, okay, right, I'm gonna get this over with real quick, and you did. Since that fight, you've continued your unbeaten streak. Like I say, 19-0. Let's talk about your most recent fight. Obviously, you boxed on Friday. You beat Luis Melendez on points over 10. Going into the fight, a lot of people felt it was going to be a close, competitive fight, but you pitched a shutout across all three judges' scorecards. Talk me through it again, man. Brilliant win.
Like I said, it was my first 10-rounder, and I trained. I made sure I did everything to have, to be 100%. And I thought he was a good fighter. I respected him, but once I really got in there, it was I thought I was too physically strong for him. And, it goes back to my training, my preparation. I think just that alone, I think, took over the fight and made it, one-sided.
And let's mention as well the cut. Obviously, in your corner, you had the legendary Stitch Duran. What a man to have in the corner, hey? If you see a bit of blood.
Yeah, until it goes, I've been cut before. It's nothing new and nothing that's gonna scare me. I mentally prepare myself, and I tell myself, nights before the fight, if I do get cut, we're not gonna, react or, pay any attention to that. So I think I showed that. So.
Yeah, for sure. And obviously you're a super featherweight. The main event was for a super featherweight world title. Did you get to come back to your seat ringside to watch the main event ringside?
Yeah, I watched that fight. I watched it closely, and I've been saying like I said before the fight, that I would love that fight. Not just because, he got dropped or whatever, but I truly, think I'll, knock that guy out. He was, respect to him. He is one day go down as a Hall of Fame, 3-division champion. But I think it's my time. So.
Yeah, my next question was going to be, obviously, the main event was in your weight category, and I wanted to ask how soon did you want to be in those conversations for those types of fights? But it sounds like straight away you're ready now, you feel.
Yeah. Yeah. I was ready. I've been ready. I was ready my last fight. I think I answered questions to myself. How I would feel going 10 rounds. Because it's one thing to say, that or spar 10 rounds, and then to actually do it. And honestly, I felt, it was really easy. And in my last round, I think I picked it up, a whole nother level. So, I'm ready to go 12 rounds. I think, it's perfect timing for me. And, it's now or never.
And Andres, are you a fighter that needs to know their next fight day almost as soon as they step out the ring?
I would not necessarily, because I'm heading back to the gym next week. I like to be in the gym. I don't really like to have time off. I like to be consistent. Obviously as a fighter, I want to fight. As soon as possible. So if we can keep lining them up, that would be perfect.
I don't think I've ever asked this question before in the past, but I feel like I want to ask it for some reason. What's your favorite cheat day meal?
Cheat day, I like some ice cream, Ice cream is great.
What flavor?
Cookies and cream.
Oh my god, that's my favorite as well. Okay, if I ever see you, we'll definitely have to grab a cone. I want to ask you as well, when would you like to fight next? I know obviously there's that Haney Lomachenko card looming. I'm sure that's got to be one you want to be on the undercard for.
Hopefully I can get on that card. I'm pretty much just waiting for my eye to recover. But, it healed up pretty nice, and my hands are, perfect. So, I think May would be, perfect for me to get back in there. And I think hopefully we can, get me back in there by then.
And obviously you mentioned there Navarrete, and you obviously have your eyes on the guys at the very top of the division. Is there anyone in particular, one name in particular that you have at the top of your list that you'd like to fight in your weight category, or is it just any of the top guys?
It's really any of the top guys. I see all the top guys the same. I see every fighter really the same. I respect every fighter equally, and I think I'm the best fighter at 130. So I'm really it really doesn't matter to me.
And another super featherweight world title fight takes place this weekend in San Antonio. We're going to see Ray Vargas stepping in with O'Shaquie Foster. How do you see that one going?
I think Ray Vargas should get it done. I actually sparred him last year. I did quite a few. I did a lot of damage to him, and I thought he was too small for me, so but anyways, going back to their fight, I think he gets it done. I think offensively he's going to be a little bit too much for Foster, and I think he'll edge it out, and I think he'll win by decision.
Yeah, I think it goes to points. It's going to be a real good fight, I think, though. And you touched on sparring him there. I was going to say as well, obviously being based in Vegas, I'm going to guess you must have sparred a real impressive bunch of names over the years. Aside from Vargas, what other names, big names, can you reel off to me?
Tank Davis, who else? Antonio DeMarco back in the day. I sparred Lee Shelby. I sparred, really a lot of good fighters. As of lately, I haven't been getting that high level, but I've been getting in a lot of rounds. But the list is so deep that I can't even think of any names right now.
See, Lee Selby, obviously from the UK where I'm from, it makes me want to ask, how did that spar go? Because he obviously is recently retired, but he always said that he didn't feel that we got to see the best of him on fight night. He feels like he did most of his best fighting in the gyms, in sparring. I've heard how good he was in sparring. What was that spar like with Lee Selby?
Well, I was about I think 15 years old.
Okay.
So yeah, so it wasn't nothing crazy or nothing like that.
Okay.
Yeah.
No worries. All right, man. My next question, I'm kind of putting you on the spot a little bit here. I like to ask this to everyone that I speak to from overseas. Obviously, you're only young. I'm not expecting you to throw out a name from 100 years ago. But if I ask you who your favourite UK fighter is, any era, do you have one?
I do. Are we talking any weight class?
Any weight class, my man.
Prince Hassim.
Prince Nassim, yes. Yeah. What do you like about him? The flashiness?
Flashiness, but if we was gonna go heavyweight, I really liked forgetting his name. He had long hair.
Lennox.
He was a champion.
Lennox.
Yeah, Lennox Lewis. Yeah, for his straight punches. I think
Yeah, they're probably the two most popular answers I get. Everyone loves Prince Nassim Hamed, and obviously Lennox Lewis as well. You know, definitely two of our best fighters ever. Two real good guys you've listed there. Just finally, before we wrap it up, Andres, if you've got any closing words to the listeners, I like to throw this over to the fighter to kind of close out with a message. Of course, do not forget to give out your social media handles. But yeah, end us with a nice message to the listeners, and of course, those social media handles, my man.
I just want to say thank you to everyone, and hopefully, one day I'll go out in the UK and fight, and have an amazing show out there. But you guys can follow my career at _Cortes97 on Instagram and _Cortes on Facebook. And thank you all for listening. And I hope you guys, tune into my career. You guys are going to see something special.
Absolutely, I agree 100%. Listen, Andres, it's been a real pleasure speaking with you, my man. Thank you for your time. Congrats once again on your win, and we'll speak again soon, I'm sure.
Thank you.
Okay, now it's time for part 2 on this week's show. This part, of course, the news part of the show. We're going to start here with this one. Shakur Stevenson, friend of the show, returns to the ring on April the 8th against Shushiro Yoshino. That's going to be Stevenson's first official fight at lightweight. It's going to be going down in Newark at the Prudential Center. Maybe you can get over there for that one, Eddie. But yeah, I don't know if they've... Oh, they have announced a couple fights on the undercard. We're going to see... Jared Big Baby Anderson on that undercard. Cool to see him in town. Keyshawn Davis as well will be on the card. I don't think their opponents have been announced just yet, but it's all about Shakur Stevenson, the home fighter, the main man in his own city there. Moving now to this next piece of news. Anthony Joshua, it's official now, he returns to the ring on April the 1st, on April Fool's Day, against Jermaine Franklin, the guy that recently boxed Dillian White and arguably won the fight but didn't get the decision. So he will be taking him on. The groundbreaking piece of news really is that it's not going to be on pay-per-view. It's going to be on regular DAZN, which is the first time Anthony Joshua has boxed off of pay-per-view in the UK since, I literally couldn't tell you, it would have been, I guess, before he won his world title back in like 2015 or something, man, which is madness. So like 7 years of pay-per-view fights every single time, and we're going to see him now box on regular DAZN, but that's another story. We know that DAZN obviously are up in their monthly subscription as well, which is very stressful. Anyway, yeah, so that's the main event there. I don't know if they've announced much of the undercard just yet, but it's all about that one. The interesting angle really is something I read from someone online. They said that if Anthony Joshua knocks out Jermaine Franklin, as he should do, then if he wipes the floor with him, makes it look easy, then it kind of ruins the chances of us seeing Dillian Whyte and Anthony Joshua 2, which is a fight that Eddie Hearn has been saying for such a long time he wants to get that on. I don't think the fans really want to see the fight too much, to be honest with you. Look at what Tyson Fury did to Dillian Whyte last time out, and Dillian Whyte, like I say, arguably lost to this guy here. So if Joshua blasts out Jermaine Franklin, that surely is the end of anyone at all, even Eddie Hearn wanting to see Dillian Whyte, Anthony Joshua too. But anyways, it's all about the big man AJ. All the best to him, April the 1st. It's going down at the O2 Arena as well, back home for him. It's not going to be a Wembley Stadium type of fight. Elsewhere, in other news, friend of the show, former world champion Callum Smith fights on March the 11th in Liverpool, a homecoming for him. He gets in with the world-ranked undefeated Polish fighter Paweł Stepien, who I can't remember his record now, but I'm gonna be honest here. It's a guy I've never heard of, and this is not the kind of fighters that Smith should be in with. I mean, it's another waste of time. And I don't like to say that too often, especially about guys that's been on the show. I really, really like Callum Smith, massive fan of his, but this is just a bit of a joke, to be honest. I don't know what they're doing with this guy at this point. On the card as well, we're going to see Johnny Fisher. We're going to see Diego Pacheco come to the UK. He's a real, bright prospect. It's going to be great to have him on these shores. He gets in with Jack Cullen. We're going to see Liam Parrow as well, I think ranked number 1 or 2 in the world. He gets in with Robbie Davies Jr., and also Campbell Hatton on the card. Again, the date for that, March the 11th in Liverpool. All the best to all the guys on the card there. What else do we have? We've got this one as well going down in Newcastle on March the 18th. It's the next gen card over here. The main event is going to be Cyrus Patterson getting in with Chris Jenkins. It's a step up for Cyrus Patterson, who, was a good amateur, signed with Matchroom, obviously, and I almost kind of forgot he existed. He's been so quiet. I don't know if an injury or whatever's kept him out, but I think he's been quite inactive, if I'm not mistaken. And I just didn't know what the plan was with him. He just went really, really quiet. But anyway, he's back here in the main event against Chris Jenkins. It's a decent fight, to be honest with you. So all the best to him. Couple of other fights on the card as well. I think we've got one of the McCormacks on, and we also have Hopi Price, I think, in a bit of a step up there. That's about it really. It's a next gen card, like we say. Again, the date for that, March the 18th in Newcastle. And in other news, Richard Torres Jr., we've mentioned him in the review part of the show, knocking out his opponent. He returns to the ring already. They've announced his return to the ring. It's going to be March the 25th. He gets in with Willie Jake Jr. at Fresno's Save Mart Center. That's on the undercard of Richard Comey and Jose Ramirez. So the date for that, like I say, March the 25th on Saturday night. Gets in with Willie Jake Jr. It's going to be the co-main event, if I'm not mistaken. Willie Jake Jr. as well, 11-3 with 2 draws. All 3 losses came by knockout. He got knocked out in 4 rounds by Stefan Shaw, who obviously we see recently get beaten by Effie Ajagba, so I'm not expecting him to go the distance with Richard Torres. It's going to be another explosive knockout. You can bet your last buck on that, as they say. What else do we have? This piece of news here as well. It's going to be Murajon Akhmadaliev defending his WBA and IBF World Super Bantamweight titles against Marlon Tapales. That one to take place at the Bowen Center at Techport in San Antonio, Texas on Saturday, April the 8th. Busy schedule coming up here. And also, it's going to be the co-main event to Jesse Bam Rodriguez, his fight against Christian Gonzalez for the vacant WBO flyweight title. So that's, again, Bam Rodriguez attempt at becoming a 2-weight world champion there. A couple of other fights on the card. I think Raymond Ford on the card as well, if I'm not mistaken. Is that it for the news? I think that is it for the news, finally. A lot to go over there, like I say. Moving on to the preview part of the show. We're going to start here with this one. It takes place on Saturday at the Wembley Arena, live on Sky TV. A couple good fights, actually, on the undercard. Let's whiz through it, though. Hassan Azim, 5-0, gets in with Abdallah Luanja, 15-9 with 2 draws. That's over 6. We got Vidal Riley in another waste of time fight White, 7-0. He gets in with Anis Tadju, 7-2. He needs to fight someone, Riley. I'm beginning to really lose interest. It's an 8-rounder there for him at cruiserweight. We've also got Caroline Dubois, 5-0, getting in with Farish Mashouri, who is 10-7. That's over 8 2-minute rounds there. Caroline Dubois, for a female, she's been banging out almost everyone. I think she's only gone the distance once in her 5-fight career. Her opponent here as well, been stopped twice in 7 losses. It's going to be interesting because she's been in with a few British fighters. She got stopped by Chantel Cameron in 2 rounds. She got stopped by Terry Harper in 2 rounds, but she went the distance with Natasha Jonas. So it's interesting to see here. We're going to definitely have the measuring tape out this time next week, seeing how she got on in comparison. Another really good fight here for the English middleweight title. We've got Tyler Denny, I think, fresh on his win over Bradley Ray, now 15-2 with 3 draws, defending the English title against the undefeated 16-0 Brad Pauls. That one, I think, is a Tyler Denny fight to win on points. I think he wins that one on points there. Zach Chelly as well, good fight this, 12-1 with a draw, getting in with Anthony Sims Jr., 23-1. I really like this fight. I think you probably have to favour Anthony Sims Jr. just based off of how good of a boxer he is, and I think sometimes we forget how much of a banger he can be. He's got 20 KOs in his 23 wins, obviously a banger. Yet Zach Chelly is someone who I'd say is a banger as well, but then when you look at his knockouts, I think he's got maybe six KOs in 12 wins. You'd have to say that Sims is the bigger puncher of the two, but I think Chelly fights like more of a puncher than Sims. It's an interesting one. I think, you'd have to side with Sims, probably on points, to be honest with you. But I think Zach Chelly, there's an interesting bet on Zach Chelly getting a knockout here. I just think Sims, after he lost to that guy who took his oath, forgot the guy's name. I think it was someone Angulo. Who I think then David Benavidez went and smashed up. It kind of showed you that maybe he's not as good as what we all thought he was at one stage. And I think Zach Chelly getting the home advantage, racked up a couple good wins. I think he's got maybe 3 KOs in his last 4 fights, something like that. I think he's got some good momentum. And he's going to put it on Anthony Sims, man. He's going to really put it on him. It's a 10-rounder. I wouldn't be surprised to see Zach Chelly get him out, and it'd be a proper statement if he did. So yeah, I think Chelly for the KO is a good price there, and also Sims, I think, to win on points is probably the most likely outcome. And the main event, Adam Azim, the Wonder Kid, 7-0. He gets in with Santos Reyes, who's undefeated as well, 12-0. Somebody's own must go there. It's over 10 rounds at super lightweight. Moving out now to the Derby Room Pomona at Fairplex, Pomona, California, USA over here. I don't think it's going to be televised, but friend of the show, former WBC light heavyweight world champion. He returns to the ring after, I think, almost 4 years out of it. Alexander Gvozdyk of Ukraine. It's going to be great to see him back. 17-1, the one loss, of course, to Beterbiev in a great fight. I don't know what kept him out of the ring so long. I can't remember if he got iced badly against Beterbiev or not. I can't be bothered to go back on a fight from 4 years ago. But anyway, it's good to see him back. Definitely was one of the best guys, at his weight. Obviously took the title away from Adonis Stevenson, ended his career, which was a sad thing. But Gvozdyk was a great fighter, man. It's going to be good to see him get back in the ring. He gets in with Jorge Miranda, who's 58-21. That's over 6 rounds there. And then, the final fight to mention, or the final card to mention, it takes place on Saturday. It's going to be live on Showtime at the Alamo Dome in San Antonio, Texas. On the undercard, friend of the show, we had him on last week's show, Mario Barrios, 26-2. Coming off 2 losses in a row, unfortunately, to Keith Thurman and Gervonta Tank Davis. It's a must-win fight. He gets in with Giovanni Santiago, who's quite a tough guy. Gave Adrian Broner a decent fight, but really and truly, I'm a big believer in Barrios. I mean, I think his transition to welterweight hasn't been the smoothest, and after losing by stoppage to Gervonta Davis, jumping straight in with Keith Thurman in your first fight at the weight was a bit of a mad move in hindsight, but he bit off more than he could chew that night, lost quite clearly. But he's took time out. He's been out the ring almost a year now. He's split with Virgil Hunter. He's with a new trainer now, who I think he's known for quite a few years. Again, we had him on last week's show. He gets in with Giovanni Santiago. I'd say Barrios will probably win that one on points, but just looking forward to seeing him return to winning ways because he's one of the good guys. Mario Barrios, I get on with him very well. Very good guy. And the main event, Ray Vargas, now currently 36-0, defending his WBC Super-Featherweight world title against... In fact, I don't think he's defending it. I think it could be a vacant title if I'm not mistaken. I'm pretty sure it is vacant. He gets in with Oshaki Foster, who's 19-2. Again, we spoke to Andres Cortes earlier on. He's siding with Vargas. A lot of people are talking about Foster, though, saying that he could win this one. I know that when the fight was made and all the rest of it, I looked at the odds at the time, and Oshaki Foster was a 2-1 underdog, which I thought was a really nice price. Since then, it's been hammered in. It's now just under evens, or just over evens, whatever we're saying, about 5-4, whatever. So you can still double your money with Foster, but it's not as generous as 2-1, because I think those odds were kind of crazy, to be honest with you. But anyway, should be a really good fight. I think it goes the distance. I think Oshaki Foster could win, but then again, I think Vargas, if I'm not mistaken, is with the PBC, so he could end up getting a favour done on the cards. But yeah, I think it does go to 12 rounds. It's going to be a good fight though, because like I say, I've been hearing about Oshaki Foster for a long time. It was actually Regis Prograis who put me onto him a few years ago, said he's a guy to look out for. He gets his chance here. I think he's with Probellum, if I'm not mistaken. It would be great for him to win this for their promotional stable. But yeah, Ray Vargas, a tough man to beat. Like I say, 36-0, one of the longest streaks out of all the fighters right now, and he's come through the weights and everything, so yeah, it's a tough one there. Like I say, I think it goes a distance. Foster could get it, but I think Vargas probably, the rightful favourite, really. He's got the credentials that are clear to see. But that's about it, though, for the preview part of the show. In part 1, we did the review part, and we welcomed our special guest. In part 2, we did the news, and we've just wrapped up the preview part. The final thing for me to do is to come in with the outro, which I'll do in just a few seconds. Okay, and this wraps up episode 382 of the BoxHard Podcast. I've been your host, Joey Coastman. Eddie Chambers has been with me for the duration of the show. Thankfully, not Eric Chambers. A special shout out to this week's special guest, the undefeated Super-Featherweight contender Andres Cortes. The biggest thanks of all, though, goes out to you, the listeners. There has been one piece of news break whilst we've been recording the show, and that's that a part of the undercard for Joshua Franklin has been announced, and it's 2 fights thus far that have been announced. We've got Craig Richards stepping in with Ricards Bolotniks for the WBA Intercontinental Light Heavyweight title. And we're also going to see Matteo Signani defending his EBU European title against Felix Cash. Again, the date, if you didn't know, for that one is April the 1st, live at the O2 Arena. Felix Cash getting the European title fight instead of the Amo Williams fight. There's more on the line in terms of belts, but it's not really the fight I think everyone wanted to see. But anyway, that's about it from myself. Enjoy your weekends, people. Stay safe, and we shall see you all again this time next week.